equilibrium is the GAN box. GAN box.
Alright, so what are we doing right now? We're above this gap. We're sitting in this gap. So, you know, we still have a decent amount of time. This could be a little manipulation. This could be our market open manipulation. Yeah. So, right now, ES is more bearish than, yeah, NASDAQ, just because of the way that it's reacting. But, I mean, this is a good sign as is with how we're respecting this gap. So, again, when we're filling this gap, what would I want to see out of it?
To the downside or inverse.
Yep.
Confirming bearish order flow.
Yep. And then?
Lower time frame confidence for entries to the
No. I would want to see a breaker structure to the downside, imbalance, and then a retrace to confirm that new trend. And then I'm looking for entries. Yeah.
So I just missed retrace.
Yeah.
I just missed retrace.
Because again, it doesn't really mean much to us if we just get this breakdown, because that, you know, we could easily move higher off of that. I want to see a breakdown and then fill of the gap, and then confluences down out of that, because if I just see a move down, again, it could go higher, but if I see a move down, then a retrace into a bearish confluence that gets respected, then that's real strong, right? Music down. Sorry, I'm jamming. Turn music up, bro. Louder. Turn off the stream. Why are we looking at NASDAQ? The whole world's eyes are on oil.
No, seriously, bro. What are we doing?
Fuck, turn that shit off.
Chain fiber. Yes, we're bearish to entry.
Yeah.
Just patience.
Explain an oil block.
So since we pushed, okay, so see this 15 minutes. Since we pushed past here already, breaking this low, this 15-minute doesn't really matter. No, because I was thinking like, okay, I'm respecting this 15 minutes.
What are we actually doing? We're sweeping out
Sweeping,
15
yeah.
minutes.
Forgot about that. You're sorry. Are we on the qualified right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So right now there's really not much that I'm seeing besides us respecting this gap. And yeah, until we can get like full confirmation that we're going to extend lower out of this gap, I wouldn't be looking for anything.
Full confirmation would just be like a break structure, retrace, lower time frame break structure, or retrace to target lower.
Yeah, so I'd want to see a break, a change in order flow of current price. So right now, I would be looking at either this low right here or this gap. But since ES is the more bearish index as is, I would want to see Nasdaq like give us some sort of disrespect. And actually, right now, we're seeing like a potential slight bullish SMT right now. See from this low up to this low down to this low. Now again, our overall bias is bearish, but we can also keep in mind that the 1 hour can inverse this gap, and we know that on the 4 hour we're bullish, right? So if we're bullish on the 4 hour and we end up inversing this hourly gap, it's pretty safe to assume that we're going to want to come up and target these highs, especially on Nasdaq. Nasdaq's the more bullish index, so Nasdaq we can inverse this gap. I would want to see, just like every single time, even if Nasdaq inverses this gap, that doesn't mean that we're going to move higher until both of these indexes are correlated. So right now these are correlated on the low time frames. They're both in bullish trends. They're respecting bullish order flow, or at least as is, as long as ES doesn't inverse this gap right now. ES swept out these 5-minute lows. Nasdaq didn't. We're making a bullish S&P divergence. We're continuing this 5-minute uptrend right now. So what I would personally want to wait to see, because we're in this kind of decision-making point of this hourly gap, I would want to wait and see, does Nasdaq inverse this gap? If it does, I'm honestly assuming that if Nasdaq ends up inversing this hourly gap, ES won't, to try and make that indecision go even further. So ES just inverse this bottom gap right here. But I think that if Nasdaq ends up inversing this hourly gap, I don't think ES will. That's just how the market is. Like, it's going to try and manipulate people as much as possible. So Nasdaq's probably going to want, if price wants to move higher, Nasdaq's going to inverse this gap while ES won't. And if ES doesn't, we need to be super, super strong and super thoughtful and be understanding that, hey, we're still in this bearish gap that could send us lower, and just because Nasdaq inversed this gap doesn't necessarily mean anything yet. We still need to wait for these time frames to be aligned on the lower time frame, showing break of structure to the upside, continuation. Because if ES can give us that correlation, like right around here, it's like, okay, Nasdaq inverse this gap, and if ES pushes up past these highs, then gives us a retrace into bullish confluences, and then we can see that this leg is actually going to extend and we're not going to disrespect this bearish confluence, then it's safe to assume that ES isn't then it's safe to assume that ES isn't going to respect this gap anymore, because it came down into a bullish confluence that if it was bearish, it should have disrespected. But we're respecting it, so we can assume that eventually this hourly gap's going to get respected, and then we can target higher. But you don't trade on ES anyway, so that doesn't even matter to you. So, and also Nasdaq's the more bullish index, so you would want to be looking on Nasdaq anyways. So right now, what it looks like is we're making a bullish SMT. Nasdaq is sitting above this hourly gap, but again, all of that can change super quickly. So ES inverse this gap. Again, I want to wait for these two to be correlated. Nasdaq currently is the more bullish index. We're still sitting in bullish order flow as is on the Nasdaq unless we can break underneath these 5-minute lows. Then that's, in my opinion, step one, step two. Nasdaq, these lows. So that's step one, step two. We get step one, liquidity sweep, and then we push down, and now we're actually within an hourly gap. So step two would be breaking down out of that gap and then getting a retrace and then confirming within that bearish confluence that we're going to push lower to then target these lows. And luckily for you, since you focus on Nasdaq, because Nasdaq's the more bullish index, at the end of the day, we're probably going to be waiting for the last bearish confluence, just like how, because ES was the more bearish index.
Yeah.
And how we would, if we wanted to look bullish, we would have wanted ES to be our kind of like last confirmation because it's the more bearish index. On the flip side, we are going to want to wait for Nasdaq to be our last bearish confluence because it's the more bullish index. So if Nasdaq can like start weakening up, break structure, fill the gaps, and then respect them to the downside, then it's pretty safe to assume that, like, again, ES is already pushing lower. It's probably going to be targeting these lows. So the second that Nasdaq can come around and start aligning with ES, then boom, we're looking good.
Makes sense.
So
Makes sense.
let's see what it wants to do off these 5-minute lows. It's like 13 minutes into market open. It's pretty good. Pretty good time right now. Again, I'll just stay super patient. You know what to wait for. I'm gonna go pee real quick.
Can I change the music?
Yeah.
Guys, let's play a Christian music. Let's play a Christian song. It's gotta be lit though. Guys, what's a good Christian song? What's a good Christian song? God, please no. Oceans? Let's play that song. It's gotta be lit. It's gotta be lit. That shit is not a Christian song. Well, if you want to play a Christian song, bro. Is that okay? Lil Tony? Bro, Lil Tony's not a Christian song. Alright, see what these look like. Okay. So ES is way more bearish than NQ.
Yeah, so right now the two indexes are telling us like low key kind of two different things right now. ES inverse this gap. We haven't yet broken structure to the downside, but Nasdaq swept out these lows and is pushing higher. So it's like, again, we've been faced with this pretty much every single day of the markets that we've been trading together, where one of the index is telling us one thing, the other one is telling us another. So best thing to do during these times is to stay patient. So again, I would be looking at Nasdaq, and Nasdaq, like, if we want to be bearish, then we don't need to look at ES because ES is the more bearish index. We want to be looking at Nasdaq to see, is Nasdaq going to respect this hourly gap? Are we going to displace lower? Are we going to disrespect bullish order flow? All of that stuff. Because, yeah, like right now, I mean, we're good. We're just going back and forth. Both of these indexes are struggling at these lows, while Nasdaq is pushing above these highs. So again, if we want to look for bullishness, we want to look at ES and say, you know, are we disrespecting Are we disrespecting bearish order flow? And if we're looking for bearishness, we're going to want to be looking at NASDAQ and say, are we disrespecting bullish order flow? Right now, we actually don't really have too many like good low time frames. Like this is very like a lot of wicks. Like if we look at from market open, this is pretty sloppy, you know. So even on the 5 minute, it's pretty sloppy. We got wicks all over the place. We don't really have too many gaps for us to look at. It's pretty ugly. So again, the best thing that we can do is stay patient. If we don't see a trend, we don't take it. Again, these two indexes are telling us the exact opposite of what we want to do right now. ES is saying, hey, we're inversing this gap. NASDAQ is saying, hey, we're sweeping out these lows. We want to push higher. We're probably going to inverse this hourly gap. So it's up to us. It's up to us to say, okay, which is it? And what I would be looking for personally right now, because NASDAQ continues to push higher, I would be looking at, well, I mean, geez, bro. I mean, yeah, NASDAQ is pushing higher while ES is pushing lower. I would want to see if ES breaks structure. I would also want to see if NASDAQ can break structure and maybe like disrespect this 1 minute gap. That wouldn't be any sort of confirmation, but that would be one step in the right direction for me to maybe consider this a 5 minute extension down, and then that's when I would be looking for some sort of retracement higher on the like a 1 minute breaker structure to the upside, and then to look for a break back down. But right now, price is looking real ugly, and it's really battling it out with this hourly gap. ES is respecting this hourly gap really cleanly versus NASDAQ. We're sitting above this hourly gap. So the question is, what is it? Are we disrespecting bearish order flow, or are we respecting it? We need to wait, and we need to wait until the indexes can align and tell us what price actually wants to do.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Oh, let's see this question song.
Yeah, but yes is the opposite.
If ES were to break above this high, is that like one step closer to like, okay, now ES can be aligning with bullish order flow, but it's on the 1 minute time frame?
Nah, bro. No. What I would be looking for right now is because NASDAQ is bullish. What I would be looking for right now is the fact that we came into equilibrium right here. Now, I'm not saying that that's an entry, but I'm saying the fact that we came into equilibrium realistically should mean that ES is going to push lower off of this. Sorry, let me turn this off for a second. Should mean that ES is going to push lower off of this and start disrespecting bullish gaps. But if we don't do that and we start pushing higher, that does, so pretty much what you were saying, like that does give us a little bit extra confluence of saying, okay, you know, maybe we want to look higher on this. But I mean, bro, look at this 1 minute. This is horrible.
Crazy.
So even like the 5 minute looks like this. It looks like clean-ish, but the 1 minute's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
The 1 minute's a mess on this. Like it's very like these two indexes are really trying to figure out who's going to decide where we want to go today.
Yeah.
So again, this is ugly, bro. This is super ugly.
Do you think it's because CPI is tomorrow?
Yeah. It's definitely part of the reason. I mean, bro, like this 1 minute is so bad. We probably won't get any clean price action until we can fully decide. And a lot of people would then be like, "Oh, I'm late to the move." Again, I would rather be late and right than try and predict and be wrong.
Jeez.
Yeah, because this is super super ugly.
I would have, bro. I already would have been in a freaking trailer, right? I know this song. I like this song. My church. Do you listen to Christian music or not? Or just like
Nah, I didn't
music?
grow up Christian. I grew up
okay.
Mormon. So we have like hymns. We have hymns, but it's different than like typical Christian music. Okay, so go look at. So again, remember what I was saying? I mean, right now, like the 1 minute's a fucking mess, but remember what I was saying. We came into equilibrium. If we were bullish, then we would probably want to displace higher past this and push up. Right now, we're respecting this to an extent, but again, like what I would be looking at now is because ES is respecting that. I would want to be looking at Nasdaq and say like, okay, and it's just unfortunate we don't really have much.
And this gap would not be a gap to look at because of the fact that we were
I would be
out.
looking at this low because this is our most recent low. So like, I would want to see like us break past that. That still would not be enough confluence for me
until we get that rebalance.
Yeah, but I would want to not even. I would want to see us break past this because we have 7 minutes until this hourly candle closes, and I think Nasdaq is going to give us a run for our money. I think price is going to give us exactly what I said. I think Nasdaq's going to disrespect this gap while ES respects it, and in turn, I think we're going to still have to be super patient to still be able to decide, because if Nasdaq disrespects it while ES is respecting it, again, that's both of the indexes telling us that we're going in two different directions. So we need to stay on these low time frames and say what confluences are proving the other one right. And until we can get that, and especially so like if we want to be bullish, then I want to see bullish confluences on the more bearish index. If we want to be bearish, I want to see bearish confluences getting respected on the more bullish index, because that's going to mean this one lost or this one lost.
Okay.
But right now, bro, this is a fucking mess.
Yeah.
And something else that I want you to keep in mind, even if Nasdaq like doesn't disrespect this gap, that still doesn't mean that we can't be bullish. Because we very well could inverse it on the very next hourly candle. It definitely would make me be, a little bit more bearish if Nasdaq disrespects this, because again, Nasdaq is supposed to be, it would make me more bearish if Nasdaq respects this gap on this hourly candle, it would make me a lot more bearish. So boom, right here, Nasdaq just closed underneath this low. That, in my opinion, is pretty big for us.
Yeah, because ES is also
exactly. What is so ES right now? Again, what did we mark out before?
Equilibrium.
Yes, we filled this gap. We technically got step 1 manipulation, step 2 inverse of this gap, step 3 equilibrium getting filled, like execution right here. But we weren't willing to take this execution on ES just yet. Why? Because Nasdaq was giving us bullish confluences. That was kind of giving us mixed signals. Now that Nasdaq is slowly starting to go in ES's direction, we still have 4 minutes left on this gap, so let's not get too riled up. But now that Nasdaq is slowly starting to lean a little bit bearish, I mean, even this right now, like I would want to see us push, like get a deeper retrace, and then see us come back up on the 5 minute. But right now, like it's looking like Nasdaq is losing this battle right now. So like this is what I want to see right now. ES is pushing lower. All of this is looking really good right now.
Yeah. What equilibrium? Can you go on 5 minute, please? Equilibrium, would that be from this high to this current low? If this
from this high down to whatever low gets put in. But right now, like still, this is as sad as it is. This is still anyone's ball game. Like Nasdaq hasn't really given us much confirmation, and it's just like this wick is so high, this wick is so low. Like I need to see Nasdaq give me like
that low.
Yeah, because I'm I'm assuming that ES is going to push underneath this pretty soon. Again, ES could push underneath this low while NASDAQ stays above it, and then that still could be a bullish SMT. So we want to be super, super patient here and just wait to see what price wants to give us. Versus if NASDAQ pushes underneath this low and ES pushes underneath this low, so ES just pushed underneath it. I want to look at NASDAQ. NASDAQ just pushed underneath it. Awesome. I think we've solidified what our bias is for today. Now, what can we do? We can sit back, we can wait, we can relax, and we can see, okay, awesome. I have a pretty strong feeling that we're going to be bearish today. We have all of these draws on liquidity to the downside. I'm going to still be patient. I'm going to wait for proper retraces on whatever time frame that I'm going to look for a retrace on, and then I'm going to look for some sort of execution to be able to target these lows.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
I understood everything. I just want to like solidify it, just so I don't fuck up.
Yeah. So we.
You don't have to say the whole thing.
So we've in my opinion, we've solidified this bearish bias. We got a sweep of highs. Okay, we're respecting this gap, and after respecting this gap, we just now put in a lower low right here. So the next thing that I would want to see would be a lower high. I'm highly convinced that NASDAQ is definitely going to want to give us one last run for our money to the upside. No doubt. There's just, again, the market is going to try and manipulate people into every which direction before actually giving us the correct trade. And then just like, remember the trade that you missed on Thursday? Yeah. It's going to manipulate. And then the second that it gets everybody out, boom, it's gonna take off. So we need to be ready to be able to execute when that happens. I personally think that NASDAQ, if we can break underneath this, we're probably going to hopefully get one last leg up to maybe convince people, like maybe we just wick out this low.
And then reverse off.
Yes, convince people that we're actually just sweeping this out, and then boom, that's going to be our execution point.
Makes a lot of sense.
And something else to keep in mind, if when we come up here, we don't get an execution point, that's something to be concerned about, because again, NASDAQ could just like continue creeping higher, but I don't think that that's going to happen today with how price is looking right now. ES is getting really close to this low, so we're looking good. Also, today might be one of those days that you might want to consider looking at ES over NASDAQ, because ES is the more bearish index. So again, we want to look at NASDAQ to give us that final bearish confirmation that our more bullish index is going to maintain this bearish bias that we have. But once we get that bearish confirmation on NASDAQ, I mean, if I end up taking a trade today, I know that my trade would be on ES, not on NASDAQ. One, because the draws on liquidity are easier for us to hit, and it's also not confirmed that NASDAQ's for sure going to want it to come down and take out these draws, versus ES. Right, ES is a lot closer to these draws lower. ES is definitely going to want to come down and take out these lows. Compared to NASDAQ, it's not guaranteed. ES is a lot lower. These lows, in my opinion, if we continue lower, thank you, Jadon, for the 5 gifted.
Oh, shout out Jadon.
These lows are almost guaranteed, in my opinion, for ES, but I wouldn't say that they're guaranteed on NASDAQ. So what did NASDAQ just do? We wicked past this low. I ideally would really like to see a break of structure back to the upside. Ideally, we don't flood the face down just yet. Ideally, ES doesn't give us a flood down. Ideally, we give us one more retrace higher before making this move down. I would really like for us to give us that move up first. If we don't, we can still. There's no reason to scramble. We can still find some sort of an entry. So we put in equal lows here. We'll probably take out these lows shortly. There we go. So we took out these lows. NASDAQ haven't yet taken out these lows. So we're moving pretty strong here to the downside. Unfortunately on ES, we're going to want to stay on the 1 minute now to see, because we're really close to these lows. I want to look at NASDAQ as well. See, this is a pretty big extension down. Yeah. It's making me feel like we might not, unless the 1 minute can like actually start hiking up really quick here. Again, I want to see some sort of a fake or manipulative leg back up here to try and convince people that it's not all that, and to convince people that this is just going to be a sweep to push us higher. But again, like, remember, we have these 3 lows down here. This is easy money.
The equilibrium as well.
What do you mean?
On the 5 minute. But how's the 1 hour? Do we
we fully respected this. Yeah, on both. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's about to start faking out everyone right now.
There you go. So we would want to toss this on. We also have a potential gap if once this 5 minute candle closes. We're gonna go like this. Boom. So again, remember, for me, it's ideal if we break structure to the upside. Because ES is our more bearish index, we have to also consider that ES might not break structure to the upside. And NASDAQ probably will break structure to the upside because it's the stronger and more bullish index. So NASDAQ pushed above these highs. ES did as well. I would ideally like to see price get a little bit higher here. I'd like to see price get higher. Let's see, I was concerned that we were going to sweep out those highs and then push lower, but even when we get legs down like this, sometimes we can pop right back up and actually go back up to equilibrium. This is like just to fake the shorters out to stop them out one more time. So let's see.
I know. Do you think it's fake? If right now we just might fake out the buyers that just like entered off like that liquidity sweep and that big spike up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wouldn't really want to take an entry unless we can come up into that 5 minute equilibrium. And we're actually setting this up pretty well where we have that 5 minute gap. You know, it's hard to say if NASDAQ's gonna fully want to go up and grab that. I would like for it to go back down to the 1 minute for me. Yeah, so this wick is looking good for us. This is exactly what I was saying. Where like sometimes, you know, we like edge it out and then we'll put in like a we skipped a candle. But see, I really want us to break up here. Yeah, see, like this move up, just edge out equilibrium, gets a lot of shorters in right here, and then stop those guys out. Again, it's just manipulation, manipulation, manipulation until boom,
Move.
Yes.
On NQ, do we also edge the equilibrium?
Yeah. Or we're a lot lower than from the equilibrium on NQ. So ES, we're looking good. Boom. We hit equilibrium on ES. On NQ, we're not quite there. Because NQ is our more bullish index, I personally like ES is going to give us confirmation before NQ, in my opinion. I would want to be more patient and just like wait for NQ to be the go signal, whether that means I'm taking the trade on NQ or on ES. So we're in equilibrium on both the indexes now.
That's good.
Yes. Something else that we should be aware of. Let's move this over so I can see this a little bit better.
Is that we swept liquidity?
Where?
The lows? Is that what you mean by something we should be aware of?
Yes. So ES, we took out these lows. Well, NASDAQ, we didn't.
Bullish SMT?
Potentially.
Potentially.
How would we see that potential come into fruition?
5 minute.
This inverse gap. So now this gap right here, big decision maker, big time. We are either going to see this gap get respected and push us lower, which I mean personally
would be ideal, man.
It would be ideal because that checks all of our boxes, but if we end up inversing this gap to the upside on NASDAQ, that kind of puts us right back at square one.
Yeah.
Right? So I would be on NASDAQ looking and saying, damn, I wish we had this candle here. That kind of sucks that we don't have this candle.
To see if it was like a fair value thing for him?
Yeah, to see where the gap is. So, I mean, we can look over at ES and so again, we can look at NASDAQ and say, are we going to displace lower? or and if we again, because if Nasdaq wants to push us higher, realistically, I'm assuming that there's some sort of a gap within here. We can just fucking guesstimate it. We can just smack it like this. If Nasdaq does want to push us higher, it would fill this gap and it's going to push us higher. If it wants us to be bearish, then we're going to disrespect this. Same thing here on ES. If we want to be bullish, we're going to respect this. If we want to be bearish, this gap is going to get disrespected. I wish we had this candle.
Yeah.
But
That's a big storyteller.
yeah, but we can look at ES.
3 seconds. NQ looks to disrespect while ES is just actually.
Well, we don't that box that I put on was a fucking guesstimate.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, like right now, like we're definitely underneath the gap if there was one. Oh wait, no, we actually can estimate. This was the low, so we definitely close underneath it there. Show. That's 3 units, so I would definitely do.
Might be a big stop. I do want this. I'd like it at this high. That's a big stop. I don't see the stop. Did I do that? Guaranteed take profit, even though it's crazy R.
You're totally gonna smack this bitch, by the way. You hikey made me miss my trade, but it's fine. Or I'm in, but I'm gonna probably not make as much, which is fine. I'd rather have you dub this than.
Sorry about that.
No, I don't care.
It's too late to like extend take profit, huh? Is that greed?
Yeah, for sure.
It's greed.
I mean, you can extend it if you want to.
No, I'd rather just keep it at a point where I know price is gonna hit than to be greedy.
Because on ES, in my opinion, we're definitely going to come down and take out both of these lows. So, for me, that means like we'll probably want to. Unless we just completely reverse off of this.
Don't say that, bro.
Never say never. Yeah. We have potential to do that.
You're right. You do. I really want to close to secure that winning day.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Why would you do that?
I'm fear. I'm gonna be real because of fear.
I realistically think you could extend this bitch all the way down here, bro. I realistically think that you could extend it a lot lower than where your current take profit is at. I don't think that you should be fearful at all. We can farm winning days whenever the fuck we want, bro.
That's true.
If we wanted to farm a winning day, then we could have gone out and farmed a winning day and use. I'm not saying to to adjust your take profit, but I'm just saying that, like, if like
I want to extend my take profit, but the only reason why I want to do that is for more money.
so, then that's clear that that shouldn't be the decision.
Yeah, that's true.
So Nasdaq is edging out these lows right now on ES. We took out these lows. We're coming up. We're filling this gap. We're leaving these lows behind. In my opinion, there's just like, I give it like literally such little chance that we end up leaving these lows. The only question is, do we want a deeper retrace prior to taking these lows? That's the biggest question. Same thing here on Nasdaq. Like, do we want a deeper retrace before taking out these relative equal lows? Again, because the market isn't here to please us; it's here to please itself. So it can give us a deeper retrace if it wants. Same thing here on ES. It could come up, fill this gap all the way. It could even sweep out these highs if it wants to. Same thing here on Nasdaq.
Yeah, that's true.
Like on the 5-minute. I would like to say that Nasdaq comes down and takes out these lows. I would like to say that ES comes down and takes out these lows as well. What is this? Monday. What day is it today? Tuesday.
Tuesday low.
Yeah, these are like Asia lows. So right now we're getting deep retraces here on ES, on Nasdaq. We're breaking structure to the upside. So that to me tells me we're probably getting a 5-minute retrace, and again, very well could mean we're going to want to come up, and we could again, we just have to sit and watch this shit do its thing.
Yeah.
When we have lows this close, though, for me, like I'm in a trade on ES right now. If I miss this trade with these 3 lows right here, personally, again, it just depends on my risk. It depends on everybody's risk tolerance. But like for me, if I miss this, like these are, in my opinion, there's dollar signs underneath these lows. So if I get stopped out on this trade, I'm going to want to look for more. But to be honest, I think that you're pretty safe on this because you have a deep stop.
Yeah, my stop is crazy, bro.
Yeah, but again, you got to think like this is exactly what we talked about before. It's like we either look to whatever, like take profits right here, or whatever. If we had 2 contracts, we could take 1 contract off and then manage it. So I think you're chilling. I think you're gonna smack this bitch. You got it. See if we can flood this bitch down.
Whoosh.
Baba.
Nice.
Come on, man.
Nice. W. Nice. Okay. 2 more days. 2 more days, right?
Yep.
2 more days. Nice.
That was $700 profit on the day for Tim. W's in the fucking chat for Tim.
Ooh, yes. Nice. Bye-bye. Nice.
There you go. W's in the fucking chat. Tim with another take profit smacked. That boy's cooking right now.
Nice.
That boy is absolutely cooking.
Like how we talked about yesterday, bro. Like if the money's guaranteed, bro, it's easy money, bro.
Telling you.
It's easy money. It's easy money.
Negative RR.
Yeah, negative R.
Negative R, but who gives a fuck? Because he just made money in front of 41,000 individuals. Hell yeah, bro.
Bro, 2 more days, bro. 2 more days. 2 more days, my first payout. Yeah, turn that up, bro. Turn it up. Turn it up, bro. Turn it up, bro. Turn it up, bro.
10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands, fucking
Man, it's just not even discussing, man.
OMG, nigga sleep. I ain't tripping, I'ma let him sleep. I ain't tripping, let him rest in peace. I can tell you how it happened. I can tell you about the safe house nights. I can tell you
Back to back. Back to back. Matter of fact, we need to play that Drake song.
Yes.
Yeah.
10 band, 50 band. 10 so fucking annoying, but I don't care, nigga, just smack. Stop.